Hey everybody, it's your hospitality friend Glenn here. I'm so excited to be here. I'm on the rooftop of the Moxy AC property here in downtown Los Angeles. I'm exhausted. I just went to a few days over at Alice and Alice Design, and I couldn't wait to come and check out this property. I've been waiting for it to open for years, and Steven Choe over here has the honor of operating this property as the dual branded GM. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, Glenn. Appreciate you coming over today.
Hey, congratulations. Yeah. You won an award at Alice for Select Service Development of the Year. Although being here, it feels like I wanted Select Service, I got to be honest with you.
Yeah. It definitely is a huge honor. I know that that Lightstone put so much into this development. You know, the project started, 8 years ago, right? And so to get it to the point of where it is right now, and to see the building constructed. We opened the hotel in April of last year.
Yep.
And so we're about 9 months open now.
Yeah, I remember. I was here and I was walking by. I was here for the AHOA conference, which was here last year, and I saw Marriott's CEO Tony Capuano talking to Mitch Hochberg, who is with Lightstone, that operates and owns this property. And I'm like, you guys are finally gonna open, and I was like so excited to see it. This is my first time being able to stay here. So let's get a little bit into it. One of the things that I really like most is that I love the idea of dual branded properties. And I've been kind of sneaking around and looking at this property a little bit. And what I love is that it is pretty seamless that you have these two properties and you can go from one side to the other if you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what makes it so distinctively different from anything that's out there, especially in LA. And not only that, but the fact that there's two completely distinctive brands. The building, and that you have two completely different experiences, right? Where Moxy is on the first floor, the lobby, you enter to the ground level. It's, again, the building is designed, both hotels are designed by Jacob Puschelberg. But the fact that you can come in and have one experience, the Moxy, and then go to the other set of elevators and come up to the 34th floor where the Sky Lobby is and have a completely different experience.
This is where we are right now, the same floor as the Sky Lobby, although we're at a outdoor bar over here.
Yeah, exactly. This is La Lola. It's our Spanish top lounge, and this has been really spectacular just because as soon as we opened it, LA, right, with the views, as you can kind of clearly see, you get a 270-degree view of all of Los Angeles, and it's just spectacular up here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So right down there is the crypto.com arena. Oh, I love they actually have it printed on the roof over there. Yeah. And of course the JW Marriott complex and the convention center is right there, and the highways are right over there. You are really in the middle of that emergent downtown LA scene. So that's pretty exciting for you. What's it like operating the dual brand hotel, from being able to offer different types of products to different people as it relates to your sales and goals?
It's a great question. It's definitely unique in the sense that you have two completely different experiences.
Right.
And the fact that we can customize and tailor, right, depending on, because not everybody, right, is the walk of life and say, hey, I love the Moxy lobby, but they might say, I prefer an AC guest room, or vice versa. So that flexibility to be able to do both is really amazing. And I think that our guests really love it because you won't ever have the same experience when you come here. I think it takes really multiple experiences for guests when they come in to come back, right? And then, we get a guest that comes in and stays at Moxy one visit and says, I need to come back and stay at the AC next time, which is really great, right? And I think that has lended to really unique experiences, so you don't always get the same thing every time.
Oh, right. I think it's really good. Plus, it really helps, I think, with the salespeople, because if you're appealing towards two different psychographics, you have the opportunity to really fill it up. If you have a one branded property, what did we say this was? 727 rooms. 727
between the
rooms
two hotels.
Between the two, right? Yeah. So instead of selling to one type of psychographic for that 727 or the transient hotel, then you have that opportunity to really market to two distinct groups of travelers, and like you said, get that kind of back and forth as well. So that's pretty advantageous. What's it like working with staff and stuff like that, because everyone's in different uniforms? Moxy, I can tell, is much more cool and laid back. I saw Smith working down there and a couple of the other people that really embrace the LA kind of vibe and look. But up here, it's a little bit more sophisticated and buttoned up, which I think harkens back to its European beginnings.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit a nail on the head. I mean, Smith is probably one of our ambassadors down there at the front desk. When we went through the pre-opening phase and we started hiring our staff, we looked at this and said, let's take a step back from this for a second. Instead of just hiring the traditional front desk staff or hospitality, we really wanted to hire for the brands and what was going to really be emulating what each brand represented. So we actually hired for personality and talent more than just looking at a resume and saying, well, how many years of front desk experience do you have?
Right.
And that's really lended to a really great experience. Actually, some of our staff that we hired at the front line, some of them have never worked in hotels before. They might have worked in retail, they might have worked in the theme park, whatever it is, but it was really service focused, front facing. And someone like Smith at the front office, he's somebody that you come in and say, I want to be his friend. Like if I come
totally
tell, like
that's how I was feeling.
That's like I don't like, he doesn't seem like this stuffy suit and tie kind of front desk agent, right? He's really somebody who says, I come to LA and I want to hang out with this guy. So that was kind of the idea on the Moxy when we hired it. And then of course AC a little bit more sophisticated in that sense.
Yeah, totally. Now Steve is sitting on an important point about hiring for personality versus experience in the job, right? One of the common themes we hear on the No Vacancy podcast from professionals like yourself is you can train for a job, but you can't train a personality. And with the hospitality industry having suffered so much with so many people leaving this business, it's great that you have that right attitude to bring in those people that espouse the spirit of hospitality rather than worried about the experience they have in hospitality.
Right. And that makes such a big difference, and kind of the tie-in between the both brands, right? Because they're very complementary hotels, but they don't compete with each other. So that's really great. And so when Yabu Pushfelberg did the design, what the thought was is that desert nomadic kind of individual that's the inspiration of the Moxy lobby came from the movie Easy Rider. So instead of that like nomadic person that was going to the desert and traveling to California, and as they grew up, right, and they became a little bit more sophisticated and enjoying the finer things in life, that's where the AC hotel, that's where they would kind of transfer to. And so that's what you kind of see is that like this desert nomad that's growing up, and that's where the AC hotel makes sense. And that hotel experience, again, a little bit more touching on the doorknob of luxury, right? A little bit more refined and really get a great experience with all the great views and the lobbies and all that.
It's actually really surprising to me, the dichotomy of it, because downstairs in the Moxy is a completely different feeling than when you come up here to the roof. Right. And it's done very well. It's done very purposefully. And I, as a traveler, I have different moods each day, and to be able to pair my experience in a hotel with those moods is really pretty cool. So like this morning I was hanging out with all the cool kids down in the Moxy, and I feel like, this evening I could have a little bit more refined experience having a cocktail up here, for example. So what are your predominant business drivers here? Is it mostly the convention center? What kind of transient do you have? Do you have a lot of people staying over for concerts? How is that mix of business working for you, and how are you successfully leveraging that?
Absolutely. And so the hotel's positioned in a way where, obviously we're across the street from the convention center. We're actually the closest hotel in all of LA to the convention center. It's 200 feet across the street.
This is why I've been waiting for this thing to open for years, because I'm tired of staying all the way down there.
Well,
over here.
And then LA is one of those places where like nobody drives, like everyone drives. Right. No one likes to walk, and so
dude, we were at a hotel going over to the facility over there for that Alice conference, and it was 0.2 miles, and my buddy's like, no, we're getting a car. We're getting a car.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens, and especially if you think about the convention traveler that's in uncomfortable shoes. It's a female in high heels, and a lot of times they're switching shoes and so on. Right? Well, this helps it when you're like literally 200 feet across the street, and we're like. Our front exit through our hotel literally meets you right in the split between the South Hall and the West Hall.
That's amazing.
So it is like the closest entry point. And I talk to the GM of the convention center all the time. And the feedback we always get from the convention going guests is that they love the proximity. And that some of them have come to LA multiple times, and where they would stay at the JW or stay at the Courtyard, wherever it is, some are closer on that side. This just makes it much more easier from logistics of getting back and forth, especially for carrying like bags or heavy boxes.
And that is a big deal at conventions. I see all those poor vendors, having to grab their stuff, and they're so exhausted, particularly at the end of the day. But also, you've got that amazing arena there, and with multiple sports teams playing there. I think this is the third night in a row there's like a different event that's happening over there.
Right, yeah, and to go back to the original question is that split between group and leisure. We're mostly group, right? Traditionally, with the proximity and number of rooms, we're kind of a group house hotel. But we've seen such a big positive response from the leisure customer that's coming in, especially with Level 8 that's available, which we'll talk about.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
But that's like the supercharger engine to this building, right? And that's also been driving a demand, from leisure markets that downtown maybe not be used to seeing, especially in convention hotels. So. Especially on weekends, especially on holidays, those periods, we're seeing a lot more demand come through on leisure perspective.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I saw a lot of people here who seem to obviously be here for that leisure perspective. But we got all this stuff in the area. You've got a light rail over there. The subway is a couple of blocks from here as well. So it's really easy for people. One of the things that I would love to do is like, there was a great band there at Crypto. You know, stay here, walk there, come back here, and just kind of chill out for the rest of the night.
Yeah, you know, downtown's really gentrifying, and this area especially, you're seeing that. And this building opening has really changed the dynamic. I mean, the block that we're on, right? We're on Figueroa and Pico. This block, which is crazy, about, you know, if you take it a year back, this street had 0 food and beverage outlets. Right, none. You know, so now all of a sudden after we open, you have 14 different outlets that you can go to. And it's really changed not only from a guest perspective, but the local community, because we're in the South Park district here, so you have a lot of residential buildings. So even the residents and local community really appreciate the fact that this building is open. It's offered so many robust offerings.
That's a good point. There's apartments like right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So
650 units, right?
So that's pretty helpful. It really helps drive that business. And what is shocking to me, because I did not realize the variety and breadth of food and dining options you have in the building proper, and then in that level 8 component. So first of all, explain a little to us about what level 8 is, and then I'd like to get a little bit into how you think about creating all the different concepts that you have and why they matter.
Boy, describing level 8 is probably a little bit of a challenging task, because it's really unprecedented, right? It doesn't really exist, but it's ultimately a floor that Lightstone developed in partnership with the Houston brothers, right? Who are just really well known in the LA market for having a great nightlife venues around LA. They have, I believe, 13 or 14 different venues across, and so they had this amazing partnership where they said, hey, let's build this and create this floor that was going to have 8 different concepts. And the concept was really developed around a fictional character named Mr. Wanderlust, right? That is this kind
That's
of...
the name of one of the outlets down there, right?
Yeah. Outlets, but Mr. Wanderlust is this individual that is, a little mature in his age, but traveled around the world, wealthy individual that's just had these amazing...
Is he friends with the most interesting man in the world, by any chance?
That's exactly it. I think of it as the most interesting man in the world. That's his playground. But imagine, like, you have 8 venues now that he's come back and created as kind of inspiration throughout his world travels. And so it is spectacular. They're done in a way where it's a combination of restaurants, bars, and nightclubs. And, and they've partnered with some great celebrity chefs that have really amazing food and beverage concepts down there, 3 in particular that are really outstanding, and they offer different types of cuisine. But then it doesn't just end at the dinner experience. You also have the bars and the nightclub. But what is very unique about the space is that each of the spaces, each of the concepts have some sort of performance based or experiential component. So it's not just a restaurant. It's a restaurant where you have a harpist. There's an harp in one of the restaurant that stretches across the entire restaurant. Right, you have one of the venues where Mr. Wanderlust is our main lounge, is Speakeasy Bar, but they have amazing bands, local bands that come up and play and perform. They have a burlesque performance. They have a rotating stage that has a piano behind it that is the facade of a bar. Right, so these elements really make it spectacular. And of course, the main piece of attraction down there is Sergi Sato's, where the nightclub, where they have this luchador performance, and they have the world's first wrestling ring in a nightclub that's motorized and comes
wrestling arena and nightclub,
and they have luchadors that go up and do these amazing performances. And so it is at fever pitch down there on a weekend on midnight when the place is going strong. It just becomes something magical that really doesn't exist anywhere in the city.
In this, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Area 15 in Vegas, where you have one building with a lot of cool different venues. Some are dining, some are interactive, some are more artistic, that sort of a thing.
What I think also makes this a little different and more special is that it's each of the venues that they've created are so well appointed, and attention to detail that they've gone through and put in all the appointments of the finishes and the concepting. It feels so intimate, right? It feels so exclusive, right? And when you're in each of the venues, you kind of almost forget about the other venue because you're so immersed in that particular venue and the attraction that it brings. And I think that's what's really lended to such a great experience. And our guests that come in are just floored by it, because I would say it's about 70% locals, 30% hotel guests. So when you're that traveler, you're going to a hotel in like LA or a big city, you always want to go where the locals travel, right? You want to experience kind of local environment.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really what it does, is that people really feel like, hey, this is where the locals hang out. This is not just for tourists or whatever there are.
And then I'll say yes, and like they do in the improv world, I can't help but think if I've got a booth or I'm doing business at that convention, I'm going to want to bring people to have one of these multifaceted experiences because it's right across the street.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly what it boils down to. And the beauty of the brands between Christina and Moxy is that, you know, it's really built around with a very high design, but a very affordable price point to enter the building, so that you don't have this pretentious price point and so on. And you got an amazing product. You're probably in the best location you can be to the convention center. This is where everybody wants to be. Yeah. You're not being charged this arm and leg to just like be at the location. So I think that all that combined together, supercharged by level 8, really just, you know, combines for a great experience. And as we're opening and we're ramping the hotel up further, that word is getting out, and I think that's what we're seeing a lot of interest in.
And of course, you have to have different outlets within the prop, you know, the venue. This venue proper. You've got a coffee shop downstairs, which is great because it serves both the hotels and people that are probably walking to that convention center or walking by every day, for example. Then up here, I noticed you had breakfast this morning up here, for example, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's the AC breakfast table. What's great about that breakfast is that it's a European breakfast table, so it really matches the environment of the sky lobby that we have here.
Right. But, and again, AC was originally created in Spain, so it has that European heritage when it was created by. I'm totally blanking his name, but his name was
Antonio
Catalano. Yeah, AC. That's it, right. Yeah, I get confused. I think about Atlantic City, but this is much nicer than there. Sorry, Atlantic City.
but it's a great breakfast experience, and it's one of those ones where, you know, the sun comes up and you've got these 20-foot ceilings in there. It's floor to ceiling, wall-to-wall glass in the entire lobby. So you almost, there's been a few days I wake up and I almost like have to remind myself that's actually like LA. It's not just a projection or like a piece of artwork.
Right.
It's a photograph. I mean, it's really spectacular. And so you see the sunrise. You grab some breakfast. It's a European breakfast table, so it's not your typical eggs and bacon and American traditional breakfast. It's really refined and it's done really well. It's not the largest spread that you're going to see on a buffet like a Vegas style buffet, but each item is really well appointed, and so I think that's what people really appreciate and enjoy it. That they sit and they have this great view and have a cup of coffee and enjoy a croissant or whatever that might be, and that just gets the morning, you know, just jolted and started.
Now, last night was absolutely spectacular, and we came out to the rooftop bar over here. Sadly, it was 10:30, and it was closed because it was earlier in the week. I'm sure you're open later on weekends. But we sat out here for a little bit as they were, cleaning up. They let us be out here. It was really beautiful. What a great environment.
Right.
I love rooftop bars.
Yeah.
They're amazing. The one at Mitch's New York City property in Times Square really helped redefine what a rooftop could be in New York City. It's one of the largest, most sophisticated ones that we've had seen to date. This one may not be as large, but it's really cool. It's really sophisticated. And are you serving more than drinks here? Are you doing food as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And we depending on the weather, right? Because LA typically has great weather year round, but of course inclement weather, things can kind of close down. But we always leave the space available for our guests to come out and enjoy if they want to read a book or do a call. You know, this is probably going to be our best outdoor office that anyone will find. But
you got that right.
But we offer not only bar service, but we have a wonderful food menu up here as well too, which is done by our executive chef. And it's also something on the weekends we do a brunch up here that's really spectacular.
That is really cool.
I mean, if you look at space, the thing sets up better than these umbrellas and the lush kind of plants and all that here. We do a wonderful brunch menu up here that people love.
All right, I'm going to do something that I don't know. I'm going to turn the camera just so you guys can see what an incredible view this is over here. Look at that. You can see the Hollywood Hills over there and going all the way that way. It's pretty spectacular view. Like you said, 270 degrees look all around.
Actually, if you look back, it might be hard to see on the camera, but you can you get such a screenshot view of the Hollywood.
Oh yeah, it's right there. You can't tell on the camera, but that's really cool.
This corner we're actually sitting on is probably the most Instagrammed or photographed spot we have at the hotel. If you come like on a weekend, and on the weekends, the lounge, the bar, especially like during the nice weather months, this place is hopping. You got the DJ playing here in this beautiful rooftop, and this corner just gets jammed with people taking photos and selfies and all that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So how do you think about creating those social media moments that people will hit the Instagram? They'll share those photos. I really liked downstairs where you have the the motorcycle with the sidecar. You knew exactly where I was going with that.
That's the other spot. That's number one spot. The Moxy Hotel that gets, but I really got to give it to Mitchell and the development team and the design firm in Yabo Puschelberg, because, I mean, in most hotels, you really have to think hard at how to create those Instagram moments. We don't have to do that here. It's because it's naturally already done by the way that they designed the building. I think that you'll find multiple spots. It's not just one or two places that people go to, but those happen to be some iconic spots in the hotel that people are starting to really get those pictures on. But whether it's this corner or the motorcycle downstairs or the AC lounge or the library or going out to level 8 and doing some of the stuff, the crazy stuff they have down there. There's so many places that are just so popular on Instagram, and people just want to come and they see it and they're like, I got to go there. So
no doubt.
It's really just created its own little community by people looking on social media.
It must be so exciting for you to actually see this place, alive and functioning, because you were here about a year before this opened or something, right?
Yeah. I started March of 2022. Right. So it was literally
13 months until it opened. So what was that process like, right? Because in all major cities, everything's wind up getting delayed with permitting. I had a guy that tried to open a fish and chip shop in Brooklyn. New York City kept them waiting for 2 years before they would get that thing open, right? So what was the ramp-up period like? How did you bring this property to life?
It was definitely, I've been, GM now for more than 15 years in different hotels throughout LA, and I've worked for a lot of cool hotels, but this was the most challenging, but the most fun hotel I ever worked in, because the way that the opening process went, I mean, don't get me wrong, it had its own set of stress and a lot of things that we had to get done.
And I do need to make clear that every single property that opens has its challenges. You don't just open on day one and everything is really smooth. One of the reasons is because consumers will tell you how they want to utilize the property, and that kind of changes how things go. But please continue.
Well, and then you throw on top of that the city of Los Angeles, which is probably the most challenging, one of the most challenging cities to do any sort of development. And so there's so many hurdles around different, building codes and fire inspectors and all that. So that process was just, a painful process in some cases. So, but opening the building was really one of those things that you're trying to time it the right way, because then you also have to get to a point when do I hire the staff, all these different things that you got to really kind of time with when you're getting permitting and all these things done at the same time, and then trading. And then this happens to be the first Marriott managed Moxy globally as well too, which then threw another level of pressure and press. And this is on top of everything else. Was the biggest opening for Marriott that we had. And so it was a huge moment for Marriott to be able to even open a building of this magnitude with Lightstone. So it really led it to this pressure point of making sure everything was trying to be as perfect as you can. But all in all, I think that the team, not only myself but the entire team, did a great job, and we had such great support from Mitchell and from the Lightstone team and the construction and all the different people that worked on this project. That it really truly was a collaboration. This wasn't like this was a true collaboration. We got the building opened, and we did this amazing press event in May. And I honestly think that I thought it would be much more, there would have been more problems, but I think the team did a good job overall in how we kind of opened the building. And today, if you fast forward to where we are today, which is 9 months later, you kind of feel like the hotel's been open for more than a year.
Yeah, sure. Agreed. What is I've never worked in a hotel, so I don't know how these things work. What is when the ramp-up process like from day one to when you think you're going to be running at full speed? How does that get controlled? Or do you just hope that more people just show up than you expected? How do you put that whole process?
Yeah, because, again, we hired a lot of staff that was, some of them have never worked in hospitality, right? And so, and because of dual brand and all these different things and two completely different lobbies, there was definitely a ramp-up period where we had to learn the building and find efficiencies in it and how it worked. If you could take an AC front desk person, and if there's a call off downstairs, can they go downstairs and start to kind of do that? Because it's a completely different brand and different uniform.
Absolutely
change and all these things. And so
also, I have a feeling that some of the individuals downstairs, the way that they've personally chosen to present themselves, may not work up here because it's a different type of energy.
Absolutely, yeah. We have staff that prefer only being at Moxy, and some that only prefer being at AC. Yeah. But as you open any building, you're going to find, things that you didn't, you tried to plan for, but you didn't think about, whatever that might be. So there were definitely a slew of challenges that we had in the first opening part of it. But the team just kind of worked around the clock, day and night, and I lived in the hotel for like 7 weeks.
Oh my God.
Just make sure that every little point was really well done, and just looking at all the details, and trying to obviously work with Marriott, work with Lightstone, put all the touches in, right? And then of course, as kind of we opened and got a few months into opening, we were able to get our feet on the ground and start to kind of figure out what we needed to make the adjustment.
All right, so another question I'm curious about when it comes to the right level of staffing versus how many guests you have coming. That first year is weird because you don't have any historical basis.
Right.
And you really don't know if you're going to right out of the bat do 10, 20, 30, 40, 80% of rooms. Exactly. So how do you balance those things?
Yeah, so that's something that, in most hotel openings, you kind of overhire a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we were hired right about the right percentage of staffing as time went on, and we saw kind of business adjusting, and the peaks and valleys in downtown and some of these things. And so, that's where I think myself and, the hotel management team kind of said, hey, what's the right staffing model? We looked at all those things and looked at the number of arrivals, departures, kind of food and beverage outlets being busy a certain way and so on. And then that's where we were able to kind of make the adjustments. So, it was one of those things where as people said, hey, maybe I did this for a little while, it's not for me. As people left, maybe you don't fill some of those positions and so on, replace it and those things.
That makes sense.
So we found the efficiency over time. I think we're at a place now where we got it really fine-tuned and write it down and do a science now, but it was definitely a learning curve process.
So I asked a couple of questions about you. Why did you decide to go into hospitality, and what about being a GM really appealed to you?
Oh boy, loaded question.
Yeah.
Well, actually my family owned and operated like bed and breakfast, Monterey Bay when I was a kid. And so I was kind of born into the industry, but for me, it was like hospitality was just in my blood. I love it. There's nothing I would do other than this. And, I got my first GM spot here in LA at a hotel on the West Side. And most of my hotels have all been here, as I kind of went from, I was working for IG at one point and then jumped over to Marriott. Before this project, I was at the Sheraton Grand down the street here downtown, which beautiful hotel that went through a massive renovation. But
that's a historic property that's been there. I guess it was there in the 1960s. It's connected to a whole shopping plaza, and it was like at the onset of that whole type of concept. I think that was one of the proof of concept.
Absolutely, that was the whole concept, man. But when this project came around, it truly intrigued me because I knew about the building. I just didn't know so much about all the different venues and options, and I remember learning about that a little bit more, and then I flew out to New York and met Mitchell and shared the vision with me, and I was like, where do I sign? Like, how do I I just wanted to be a part of it because I knew that it was going to be something so special that the city just doesn't have anything to. And again, my whole career has been in LA, so for me, it's not just about the hotel, it's about the city, it's about what it does for the community, it's about just so many other pieces to it that are critical to me. And I knew when this was coming on, especially during COVID, because downtown was just decimated. There was nothing happening. I mean, it was a ghost town. LA Line with crypto and all that was so empty. And I knew that something needed to revitalize the city, especially downtown. And I knew that this was going to be the project that was going to do that. And it's held true to this day because it's really changed the dynamic of what the downtown nightlife feels like.
The downtown area is definitely resurging. When they built that back there, it really acted as the catalyst to revive downtown. And it was going great. And then COVID, things kind of slipped again, but I feel like it's now returning to what it was meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
And not just that, but even the community, right? We're part of the South Park community here, South Park Bid. And they're constantly just raving about the building and the different partnerships that we do. And we're not just like involved like from the hotel perspective. We're really in the community and the roots here, really reaching out. And so, I have relationships that go back years with different parts of the community. So it's about leveraging that into this building.
So for general managers that are watching, I always stress how important it is to be engaged in the community. How specifically are you engaged in this community, and what does that yield for you professionally, for this hotel and for yourself personally?
Yeah, and this is where I would say relationships do definitely matter.
Yeah.
Whether it's partnering with the local law enforcement or being part of the Hotel Association of Los Angeles and looking at different legislative battles that are, constantly looming and trying to attack our industry to, being part of the South Park Bid where we have a local community of residents and all that, where we want to give them also a great experience and those type of things as well too. All those things combined and many other things as well too. That's so critical because that really changes like the way that you operate and how people view your building, because I do believe that buildings have a personality that's attached with it.
That's
It's
right.
only gonna be as good as the team that's on site and how much you care about and what the heart is, right? So, so for us, that's big. And then of course, Marriott has, you know, all of our take care initiatives with the local community and different, you know, organizations that we partner with. But more than that, I think from a local perspective and being kind of a hospitality, you know, person, I would say is that, you know, a lot of people think hospitality is dead in terms of like this great service because everything's being so automated. I'm the opposite. I truly believe, I still believe in the fine levels of service and really the attention to detail. And that's why, quite honestly, I think my style of leadership really, I was so impressed when I met Mitchell because he's the guru of that. So it was like, and I've worked for different hotels where that wasn't the case. And for me, that was like, it was like a match made in heaven. It was like, it's exactly the path that Flamingo wants.
I really love that. Anything you want to say? Maybe give a big plug for your properties over here?
Oh boy. Well, you know, if you haven't come to downtown LA recently, I highly recommend you come down and check it out. This building is something that you really have to see. You know, anybody can try to explain this and talk about it, but any of our clients that come in, any of our professionals from Marriott or Lightstone, anyone that comes in, they all say that when they get here, that it's a completely different experience than what they had imagined, and to the better, right? Because usually you have high expectations, and it always fizzles out from there.
Right.
This is one of those I can honestly say that every person that's come in here has always exceeded expectations. So, you know, the fact that we're 200 feet across the street from the convention center, you got these two amazing brands, these two great concepts, all supercharged by what's on level 8.
Right.
I mean, you can't beat it. It's like an urban resort. It really is, because it's self-contained. What's the beauty about it is that you never have to leave the building, and that where people, you know, might be in downtown saying, I don't want to drive, I don't want to have to walk too far. You can literally come have your breakfast here, check into your room, do your meetings, you know, go to a restaurant, go to one of the bars, then go to an after bar after dinner, and then go to your nightclub, and then get your tacos at the taco truck after you're leaving the.
I love it.
You know, and then go back to the room and sleep. So you honestly never need to leave the property, and you'll feel like, you know, you're not in the same building at the same time. So that is very hard to accomplish. And I think this is one of those unique buildings that are out there that's done that.
It feels like you've got everything the giant casino resorts have, except for the gambling aspect,
exactly.
You know,
no gambling, but you know, I tell you, it's done in a way where you feel like you're truly mixed in and intertwined with the locals, or you don't feel like you're just like in some massive resort where, you know, it's just tourists there versus the locals. So.
And that's what it is all about. Steven Choe, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Glenn.
I want to remind all of you, hey, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Or text the word hotel to 66866. That's hotel to 66866 and get our Sunday newsletter. Thanks so much for watching. So for Steve and me, Glenn,